Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Madison podcast. I am your host for today, New York's favorite British mortgage broker, Ben Lavender, and I am joined by a very special guest who we kind of like to say this is everyone's favorite coworker here at Madison Mortgage, Katherine Parache.
Thank you, Ben.
How is my pronunciation?
It's perfect.
You're lying. Okay, but thank you. Appreciate it. So Katherine is honestly a very, very special person here at Madison. And, you know, like I was joking before, everyone loves you, right? You've been with us a long time. So what do you tell us? Okay. What do you do here at Madison?
Okay, then I can do more.
Just like a very, very basic version of what you do, like 2 sentences.
Okay, so I'm the operations manager here. I've been with Shaw almost 6 years now. My day-to-day is pretty much just being a good reference for everyone to come talk to, kind of run different scenarios off of. I run 3 of the departments here. Disclosure desk.
That's it, just 3?
Disclosure desk, opening, and submissions and closing. So I guess that's 4. Submissions, Shannon helps me out with that stuff.
We love you, Shannon. Shannon Mitzi. Of course, you have to throw in that Friday fridge image. Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. Sorry, please continue.
I love what I do. I love helping people. I think what makes us great here at Madison is we have a really good system in place. The assembly line essentially revolutionized, manufacturing and lots of different industries, and we kind of have that here. So we do a great job up front, scrubbing and checking for data entry, making sure all the details are correct. And then we'll order, the items that can hold us up, appraisals, invoices, payoffs, all that stuff up front. Submissions, we're gonna do a thorough pre-underwrite. The cleaner the files go in, the cleaner they come out, the faster we can CTC.
So that's actually freaking key. So the loan officers, including myself, we love to joke around that we're really just the face of the business at the end of the day, and the ops really does the heavy lifting. All the posts that everyone sees, CTC in 0 days, 7 days, 14 days, is really all a function of the system that we have. And absolutely. I always say Madison really just makes us look good.
Yeah.
So parts of that detail that you said, can you go into a little bit more detail, Kath, on what the pre-underwrite really looks like? So what we do as loan officers, and obviously every loan officer is different, is that we do the best that we can in terms of really pre-underwriting a file when we pre-approve it, right? We collect VOEs, bank statements, tax returns, everything. We carefully analyze it. And obviously then the file goes into submission or really opening, right? Which is where you kind of go into your own version of what we've done, but you dive a little bit deeper. Can you go into some detail on that?
Yeah, just a fresh set of eyes, right? You guys are under a different pressure and time constraint up front, right? So once it gets to us, we've already have contracts, you have, the key parts, then now we can take our time, go a little slower, and really dot the I's, cross the T's, and really go in and thoroughly review the documents, the scenario, make sure you guys didn't miss anything. And from there, then we'll handle, those items that'll hold up. We're going to order the appraisal up front. We're going to request the payoffs if it's a refinance. We're going to order the VOEs because those are, things that can hold up the clear to close, but they're needed, right?
Yeah.
So we do that up front so that then once it gets to our processors, they can truly process, and pushing to CTC is that much faster, right?
Yeah. So, and especially those 2 items, ordering the appraisal and title in the very beginning is so key. I mean, obviously on refis, purchases the attorneys handle, but it's massive. It's one of the reasons why the loans really fly. So here's a question, right? Obviously it's different for the more seasoned LOs, but for the loan officers that are newer to the business, because obviously you have experience seeing loan officers that are new versus the more seasoned guys, what are common mistakes or things that you see that the more inexperienced LOs miss when they submit a file or disclose a file?
Yeah, a lot of it sometimes is just data entry, right? You want to validate the information that the borrowers are providing to you, and they just sometimes they just don't know better. You know, they're telling you their name is Joe or John, and their legal name is Jonathan, right? And it's just they've always used that name, and that's how they go by. Maybe they even filled out the online application that way, right? But again, this is, you know, legal documents. We want to make sure that all the information is correct. And it just, again, it makes the process a lot smoother. Once the underwriter catches that there's information that doesn't match, now they're going to start looking at the file differently. Like, all right, well, if they got the name wrong, what else is wrong, right? So,
because also that an incorrect name will affect the credit.
Affects everything.
And then you pull a new report and something else comes up that wasn't
and
caught.
it's going to affect closing docs.
Yep.
We've seen it where it gets to closing and the name is misspelled, and that's at that point it's not an easy fix, right? No. You have to draw new docs. You have to go back into underwriting. You have to pull new credit.
Can't just slap on an AKA.
Exactly.
You got to redo everything.
So it's so important up front to make sure just really understand and know your 1003. If you ask the questions and fill in the 1003 correctly, it's a great baseline to start off of.
Which sounds so simple. And, you know, we like to joke around that, you know, a kid can fill out a 1003, but the way that, and this is really just what works for me as an originator, is that when we structure our 1003s, we try and think of it like, how will the AUS read it? Right? That's the automated underwriting system, for those of you that don't know. And how will the underwriter perceive the information, and how that all that information communicates to DTI LTV. Do you feel like that's kind of a good basis to go on?
Absolutely, right? Because that's what
we passed.
That's what, right? The structure of the file, right? But again, you want to make sure that the information is also correct, because it's going to affect, you know, the actual qualification of the file.
Of course. So inexperienced LOs fill out your 1003s properly, basically.
Yeah, and get to know it. Like read it from top to bottom. And a lot of times we kind of just brush through it, but it'll also open up, you know, future questions, or that if they answer this question a certain way, now you can, well, what about this? You know, do you have this? So it really helps to really, once you understand the 1003 and know all the parts of it, to really collect a full, complete 1003.
Okay, so that's key. Full 1003 is the name of the game. I'm gonna get that tattooed on my forehead, or maybe we'll require that for new LOs. Okay, so you manage, saying 3 different departments, right? Opening, disclosing, submission. Well,
4.
Yeah, 4, and closing.
Yeah.
Right, is the 4th. So can you kind of like break down especially between the first 3, because it's not just good for people to know in general. It's good for Madison employees to really know, and you know, especially for new people.
Yeah. Yeah. So at disclosures, you know, we're going to get the disclosure request from the LOs. So basically the file's been structured. You've already ran the automated underwriting system, AUS, and you have a pretty good handle on the file. We're going to go in and just validate that information. Again, we're going to check for the data entry that it's correct, you know, date of birth, social security. Those are items that kind of get missed sometimes and are crucial, again, to all the documentation and the loan in general. And then we're going to set up fees, make sure we have at least the minimum required documentation. Because again, the underwriter can approve a file, but if you're missing important pieces, it's not a true approval, right? And then we've had scenarios where, okay, it's approved and now we have a commitment that's out, but now the loan doesn't in fact qualify. So those are, you know, again, we have a minimum requirement as far as the documentation, because we want to avoid all that. Again, the cleaner the loans go in, and if any issues come up front, we can handle them a lot faster and more efficiently if we know up front, right?
Agreed.
We can problem solve, and without it getting down to, you know, we're at CTC now trying to push the file, everyone's anxious, ready to close, and now we have to like completely redisclose and restructure a loan. Yeah. So we'll handle a lot of that up front between disclosures really and submission. So once the loan gets formally disclosed, they get their loan estimate along with all the required disclosures. Then we're going to go ahead and order the appraisal. Again, all those miscellaneous items up front. Once that's complete, we have submission team who's going to do a pre-underwrite, set it up for submission, get it into underwriting. And then once it comes out of underwriting, we send it over to our processors. So the processors will ensure the file gets clear to close. They do the communication with all parties involved. And from there, we take it to, once it's formally cleared to close, then the closing team picks it up, which that was a huge, item for us too, because now, again, our processors can truly focus on processing. They're not having to go back and forth, because now the file's CTC, but now we have to get closing docs, we have to get it scheduled, we have to get, adjustments, fees updated. All is time consuming. As simple as the task is, it's just very time consuming. And then you're dealing, the seller wants this date, but the buyer wants this date, but the title company's not available. So it's a lot of back and forth there that takes up time. So once we had our closing department up and running, it was a huge game changer for our processors. Again, now they can truly focus on processing and push the loans, and that's how, right, we're able to scale the way we did and close as many loans, right? Because now we're just focusing on pushing conditions and clearing files.
As an LO that's experienced it, we've seen a massive change, and we had Grosso on the property last week, as that's two last names in a row that I've messed up. Lovely. So we were just saying how, because of the system, our life as an LO is much less stressful, right? We're doing 4 or 5 times the amount of business with less stress than we had back then. So for those of you that don't know, and Kath, obviously you are aware of this because you were part of this transition in creating the framework, but most mortgage companies or most mortgage teams don't have it split up that way. It's really just the loan officer that discloses the file, right? Sometimes the loan officer will submit it before handing it off to processing, and then the processor runs with it from approval or even submission to closing. And then it's kind of impossible for a processor to, prioritize files that need to be CTC'd and address conditions while working on some silly closing issue.
Or a verbal VOE.
Yeah, it's not a good use of their time when they could be. So I think that separating all those departments, I don't think, we know because we're experiencing it, that it's improving basically the experience. It's making the conditions easier to address up front. And the best part about this, because I think to the average person that hears us saying this is like, this sounds extremely complicated. There are so many, parts in the process and whatever, right? But I think the best part is that the customer is unaware of all of this, right?
Exactly.
They're not being, prodded for, okay, your loan, we need this at submission and opening and disclosure. It's really, they're only being touched at 2 points, right? One is the disclosure. So before we disclose a loan, we're getting some updates in pertinent documentation. We're sending it for disclosure. And then the borrower isn't hearing from all these departments. They're really just communicating with the LO team and the processing team.
Exactly.
So it's like those four teams essentially are making life easier for the loan officer and the borrower and the processor.
Right. Yep.
So,
100%.
Yeah. And it works.
And efficiency is key, right? That when you have a smaller set of items that you're responsible for, if all you have to do is scrub that 1003 and make sure the data entry is correct, you become more efficient doing that, right? So while our processors are senior and very, knowledgeable, and they can handle all these aspects from start to finish, once you're responsible for so many small parts of the process, it's very easy to miss something. It's very easy to miss that the date of birth is incorrect or the social security number is incorrect, right? Because now you have to focus from start to finish. So the assembly line, right? We're not the only industry that's benefited from the assembly line. We know it works. So, and that's why, because now you're becoming a professional and efficient in that one area, and very little mistakes happen by doing that. Right?
And honestly, I was against it.
Yeah.
Right, in the beginning, because my logic was that it should really be one person working on the file from start to finish, because that person will know all the ins and outs of the file. But because the submission team has a detailed roadmap and we have a system for highlighting anything like important that we need to be aware of, the handoff, and again, it's not really a handoff because the borrower is not communicating with those teams.
Right.
But the processor taking over the file is so smooth.
Right.
It's really smooth. And because we've addressed all the, heavy or harder to address conditions up front, like you said, the efficiency has improved tremendously. And again, as an LO that has seen this take place, it's made life so much freaking easier.
And like you said, right, we had those reservations, right? We thought we're like too many hands in the pot type, right? Yeah. But again, because now we know the efficiency is there, the processors can trust that the data entry is correct, right? Of course, they're going to do their due diligence, right? But now it's a quick once over versus like having to scrutinize every single document and validating the information again. Right. So again, it's worked great for us.
Yeah, we're doing well. Kicking butt and taking names. Okay, so we've gone over kind of the process. I want to actually go back to the beginning, Catherine. Yeah. The very beginning. How did you? And again, I feel that this is really good for people in the business who are newer to the business to get an understanding of progression of someone that started entry level and now you're in a very, very high senior level position at the number one mortgage brokerage in the entire state and soon to be the entire country and then the entire planet. Okay, maybe not. So please tell us how you got into the business and how did you get from there to where you're at right now?
Yeah, so honestly, at first, I was just looking for a job. I was in school, and
what'd you study?
I was studying neuroscience.
Cool.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, I was on the pre-med track, and that didn't, I quickly realized it just didn't align with how I wanted to live my life and the things that I wanted out of life. And so my mom actually used to be in real estate, and it's funny because I used to say that's the one industry I'm not gonna do.
Really?
And
why was that?
I just felt like sales scared me. So I wanted to avoid sales. Mm-hmm. They tell you just go to school, you study hard, you get a good job, and you don't have to sell yourself or sell things, right? So I was just looking for a job and I was actually helping a firm that would assist with modifications.
Gotcha. And this was when?
This was 2012, gotcha, 2011. Okay. Yeah.
So, 9, 10
years
ago.
Yeah, a long time ago, yeah. And I progressed from there, and then I went to get my master's in finance and started doing actual mortgages. I was at a small bank.
What year was that?
That was 2014, 2015.
Gotcha. And you were just processing?
Processing loans. And, my parents were always business owners, right? So I've always, hard work never put me off. I was never afraid of having to work hard. Yeah. So it was a lot of work, but I love that you're always, to this day, I'm still learning something new. This isn't, it's not a stagnant job. Like, things change every single day. You're always learning something new. And these loans, while there are guidelines and rules that you have to follow, there's no two loans that are the same, right? We call them fingerprints. While you can have two W-2 employees, the loan progresses completely different for both. So I really enjoyed that aspect. And quickly, or early on, once I joined Shah's team, I could just sense that we had just this special thing going on here, even with we were such a small group. But
that was when, 2016, 17?
Yeah.
And how many of us were there? Like 10?
Yeah, 8 or 10. Yeah. Such a small group. And
I'm trying to think who it was. It was me, you, Ann, Toma, John, Donna, Adi, Toma's team, John's team, obviously. But and Shah, and that was really it.
Such a small group. And from the beginning, we always did things differently, right? It wasn't just about the numbers. It wasn't just, big numbers, big team. We were a small team, but we were head to head with the next biggest team at the bank, right? Yeah.
Who had, I think, 3 to 4 times the team size.
Team size.
Yeah, and we were on par or beat them depending on the
every
month.
But
Yep.
It was
every month. Crazy.
So I realized that early on, right? And I remember telling Shaw, I'm like, Shaw, we have such a great group, you know? And in fact, I had so many people at that point. I had my master's. Everyone was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you with these small group of people? Like, why are you here? And I was like, I'm telling you, this is a really special group. And conversations with Shaw, like, you know, I was like, I want to be Shaw when I grow up. Like, forget everything else, you know? So that became a passion for me, and not only just in the fact that we're helping people, right? This is the biggest transaction that we do in our lives for most people. Yeah. So I found where, you know, I was in that pre-med track to help people. I found a different discipline where I was doing the same thing. I was helping people, right? It's the American dream, right? We all want to become homeowners. So it from the beginning, a lot of people are like, why do you work the way you do? And it's like, it's become a passion for me. It's not just about the numbers and the finances. It's a great opportunity. Again, you know, everyone wants to become a homeowner, and it's a great field that we can touch people's lives, right? It's like we're with them for the next 30 years. It's not a quick transaction. We're not selling shoes. Yeah. We're not selling shoes or a piece of jewelry. You know, we're with these people for the next 30 years. So we've built great relationships, right? Lasting relationships. Yeah. So that's how I got here, and I stayed, and I'm so glad I stayed, because there were were so many times where, again, because, you know, society gets in your ear, and again, so many people like, you have a master's, like, what are you doing? You know, like, you know, so
you're putting it to good use.
100%. And even just our team, right? You know, I'm able to touch individuals also, not just our borrowers. I truly.
I'll interject. So Katherine is also a licensed loan officer, by the way.
I am.
So she does, you know, in her spare time.
Yes.
You know, Katherine does write loans, and due to the fact that she knows the process from start to finish, she probably does them better than anyone else here. But yeah, continue.
It has helped. Yes.
Yeah.
So we have a great team. We've built the great team in just the last year. We've brought on new people, trained new people that a year ago had no idea what a mortgage is, and are schooling some of our loan officers. So it's been really great for me personally to see that, and to be able to attribute to just individuals, and also, you know, our borrowers that are buying their houses. So it's been quite the journey for me.
It has.
And I'm so glad I'm
started
here.
from the bottom. Now we're here.
We are.
Not really the bottom, but we're in a good place.
Yeah.
So before, Kath, I was kind of joking that, you know, and I'm not really joking, I'm just being playful, obviously, that, you know, we always say Katherine is everyone's favorite, you know, person here. You know, people ask me, Ben, who's the best person that we need? I'm like, it's Katherine. So obviously it's Katherine. And as an LO that, you know, comes to you for help regularly, obviously I appreciate you as well. But
thanks, Ben.
I want to kind of like, why do you feel that is? It's a funny question, because I'm basically asking you, like, why are you so awesome? Right? It's like, you know, it's a license to brag, but I think, you know, part of it is because you're very approachable, you have the patience to sit down and teach someone, but you're also able to prioritize, you know, what's important, you know, when to say no to something. Like, what do you attribute that to? How are you so approachable? How are you so patient? And I feel a lot of it is mental, but I don't want to answer for you. So go ahead.
I mean, I'm a mom, right? Yeah. So that helps. But even before I was a mother, you're so motherly, you know. I think it's just a personal attribute I was born with. I've always been very patient. But for me, it's just, I know what it is to be like mistreated at work and just someone kind of brushing you off. It doesn't help anyone. No. It doesn't help the individual. It doesn't help the team. So the way we've progressed is not me just providing answers. It's providing tools for these to our team members, right? So it's not just, obviously I don't gain personal growth from you closing a loan, right? To a certain extent I do, right? Because we're all part of a team. But it helps you, it helps the team, it helps Madison, right? So I've never been like that selfish person. I've always, you know, I've loved to help. I'm patient, and I just think about the individual. I know what it is like to be, you know, that you're just trying to get some help, right? You're just trying to close some loans. You just want to get some answers. So, you know, we win more as a team than individuals. I've never been driven just by, you know, by personal and just my own growth. So.
And I think what you said before is kind of key, that it's not just really about like solving the issue, because if you just solve a problem, obviously it's great. It's a item that's checked off the to-do list. But if you can teach this, newer employee, like not just like what you did, but like how did you do it? So this way, and the logic I 100% agree with, because if you're teaching new person how to solve this problem, they can solve it themselves next time, and they don't have to come to you. You're not doing it so they don't have to come to you and not bother you, because you have no issue sitting down with them and teaching them, but it speeds up the process, which makes the system more efficient, which makes Madison more efficient, right?
100%. And even down to the fact that maybe I don't know the answer, but now that's going to open up a window, a door, an opportunity for me now to go do some research. Okay, well, maybe I don't know this answer, but how, I know the resources, I know who I can escalate to, I know where I can do reading on it, so maybe I'm not teaching them, but they've taught me something indirectly, because now I have to force myself and go do some research on this item, because no one knows everything in this industry. No. I'm still learning every single day.
Every day we learn something new.
Yeah. So, and again, it's for the benefit of the whole, right? If Madison as a whole is not succeeding or benefiting, I'm not, right? Yeah. We're a team. Yeah.
And we have tremendous growth. I mean, industry-wise, I read an interesting statistic the other day that mortgage applications are down from 2020 to 2021 by something like 20%.
Wow.
And, I can't speak for the rest of Madison, but at least for me, my production is up year over year 25%.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I'm sure the other LOs are either on par with that or they're exceeding it. Mm-hmm. And I think that is a direct function of the efficiency in the system that we have, because, again, that system and bringing everyone up frees more time for the LOs 100%. To go out and give their clients more customer service, because it frees up time so we can treat them better, and also to generate new business.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
That's what we want to do.
And important for us is actually knowing our product, right? We don't want to just sell, right? The reason, a big part, is because, right, we've always been the problem solvers. We've always been the ones that truly know the guideline and the interpretation of it, right? And the workarounds. Yep. So that was always important for me. I didn't just want to sell and just, this is what it is. Like, I need to know the why. And it's so important, because then you can properly structure these loans up front, right? Loans that could essentially, if you submit it correctly, there's no second chance, right? They can't unsee certain things. So for me, that was always important. It's not just the bottom line today. It's like, all right, how are we now going to make this even better for next time, right? Yep. And so that next time we come even across the same scenario, we're pushing through. It's not even holding us up.
And we're addressing it up front.
Yep.
Yeah. So it doesn't even go into underwriting. It's like we know.
Exactly.
Something that I've seen a tremendous reduction of in our approvals are master conditions. Yep. I rarely see them. I can't remember the last time.
No,
so
we don't have them.
A master condition, what's the best way to explain a master condition?
It's basically affecting the qualification, right? Like, if this is not, you no longer qualify. Yeah. If you cannot provide this or cannot clear this up, you no longer qualify.
Which is what you mentioned before, when we would just like submit a loan to get an approval back in the day, but the whole thing could fall apart if this isn't addressed. So that's being addressed now before the file even goes into underwriting.
Right, because all these other parties, that they're relying us to do our job, essentially, right? Yep. So now we get to a point where we're pushing for CTC, and rightfully so. How did we get here? How do we get to this point? I thought we have the appraisal. Title is clear. How do we now not qualify?
Yeah, we don't. Right? We don't have that anymore.
Yeah. So which was a big hurdle for a lot of loans at a certain time, and we quickly realized that was a big gap and addressed that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so let's wrap up with what is next for you for Madison, where do you see us going in the next couple years? Are there any like specific goals that you want to accomplish? Feel free to not divulge everything.
Sure.
Because, you know, I'm sure it's personal, but
Yeah.
please share.
No, for Madison, even for myself personally, I want to keep growing. I want to keep learning. I want to know all the things, even down to like the things attorneys are responsible for. Like I want to know all the ins and outs of the industry. Because there's so many times, right, that we are CTC and now we're just sitting around waiting for legal and waiting for title to clear. And
Yeah.
so,
Good times.
and that's where I get so starstruck with Shah, where he'll come in at the back end now and we're just like, Shah, like we're CTC, we've been waiting for a month to schedule this. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, this is easy. And like, he knows the answer right away, right? And he jumps in and saves the day. So
Unfortunately, we can't clone him
exactly.
yet.
But that's what I want, right? I want to learn all those different disciplines so that so we're not held up, right? And so that we are that source that everyone can come to and know, well, Madison knows what they're doing.
It's actually interesting that you just said that, because I just realized, because, you know, Shah was our go-to for that, right? And you've essentially taken over that role of the person that we run to if we need to solve an issue. So Shah can, you know, run the business and, you know, keep culture strong and grow. Yeah. So that's absolutely key. So, but don't let me stop you. Sorry.
Yeah. And that was my goal, right? Was not only to emulate him, but to really understand and pick his brain, not just because I love him and I think he's such a great person, but because it works. It's the right way to function. It's the right way to run a business, right? You shouldn't just blow it off and wait for an attorney to do their job who may not even have the answer, right? So for me, it's so important to have the right answers and not just, you know, make myself look good, right? I want to know the actual answer so that we can, because at the end of the day, if the loan doesn't close, it doesn't matter how quickly we CTC'd it. It doesn't matter that we caught that child support up front. You know, those things don't matter if the loan doesn't close.
Agreed.
So that's why for me, all those details have always been important, and not just asking for the answers. I've always, you know, and Shah's such a great teacher. You know, he's from the beginning, he knows how to explain it, and not to just give you the answers and brush you off and say, figure this out. Sometimes he'll give you that tough love, like, you know this.
If you need it,
go figure it out, you know? So, which I've always appreciated, right? Because it's made me that much stronger. So yeah, that's what I see for Madison, is just scaling right now, not just, you know, 200 loans, right? We wanna increase those numbers and expand statewide, right? Going to other states and just help more people, because at the end of the day, that's what we're doing. And so for me personally, I want to keep learning all the different disciplines, all the ins and outs.
You'll have a 5th Dan black belt in mortgages in 5 years from now. You're pretty much 2nd or 3rd Dan already. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us. We know you're extremely busy, and we would love and appreciate you. This is the Madison Mortgage podcast. We will catch you next time. Peace out.
Bye.